Hello, this is the Provoked Prawn. And this is the Corsair Crystal Series 680X RGB ATX smart case. This is a brand new case from Corsair and part of the Crystal series with a dual chamber layout. This is an unboxing video to show you what's in the box and talk about the various facets of the case, potential problems and discussions around how awesome it is in various ways. The first highlight is the box itself, actually, with the blown apart instructions on which parts fit where and how the case is put together and what you can take apart, and I really like that. Inside the case, one of the first things you get out is a fan dust filter. I'll talk in a bit more depth at these later on because they're mixed in that they're awesome and terrible at the same time, and I'll have a little discussion as to why. I really like Corsair's design in terms of dust filters because generally speaking on their cases they're really easy to remove, and that makes cleaning and maintenance of the case dead easy. This one is a bit more fiddly. However, the case itself is a magnificent work of art and is a worthy upgrade. It is quite expensive, or at least that's the comments that I've seen online, but I do think you get what you pay for with this design. It's fantastic, it's really well built, it looks amazing as you'll see from the final product, and it features a number of cool internals that allow for customization in various ways, as well as options in terms of RGB lighting if you want to upgrade and add more to that, which is really cool. It is quite a bit larger. Later on in the video I'll be comparing it with the Obsidian 500D, which is what I moved from for this new build. And if you want to see a time-lapse of the build, that's on my channel as well. I'll link to that in the description so you can see it in action, which is basically this footage and a lot more, with an overview of how that all went together. You can see the nice tempered glass panels on the sides and top, and the sheer size of it's quite wide. It's not a full tower obviously, but it does still take up a nice bit of room and gives you plenty of space to work with. Also, it takes a variety of motherboard sizes right up to E-ATX, which is what I went with for this build, with the MSI Meg Creation X299 motherboard, giving me plenty of room for RAM, loads of M2 drives and other things. So there's lots of flexibility with this case. You can see the dual chamber layout means that all the stuff, wiring and nonsense goes in the back, including the power supply unit, which allows you to keep the front, where the glass panel is on the side, nice and neat and tidy, with plenty of excellent airflow, which is the main selling point of this case. The side panel rear bit comes off really easily with 2 thumb screws. You also note, as I'll show you in a minute, there's a dust filter on the side there, which is perfect for PSU performance. That's very awesome. Also, in the other side, you get the RGB Fan Hub and LED Lighting Node Pro as well, which means you can have up to 6 RGB fans installed in this case and have another LED channel as well, so potentially LED lighting strips. You'll see the final build I added a Commander Pro and ended up with 8 RGB fans and 4 LED light strips, so that's possible as well. But to have the Fan Hub and the LED Pro installed already and wired in for you makes life really easy. So the 680X comes with 3 LL120 fans on the front and a standard 120 fan on the rear that isn't RGB capable, but it's pretty cool that it comes with some RGB lighting. You obviously have the options to swap out the rear fan, and the top and bottom you can add extra fans to. As you'll see, I added some extra fans to the bottom, and then the CPU cooler has the fans on it as well. Here you can see the top inputs. So we've got 2 USB, a USB-C, and then microphone, headphone jack, reset button, and the power button, all within easy access. A tempered glass panel on the top, which is removable with thumb screws, and you can mount a radiator up there or a number of different fans. And for a 240mm radiator with 2 fans on it. Obviously you could mount 4 fans potentially underneath and on top as well. And you can see the fan at the back there as well. A single standard 120 fan. Case itself is really roomy, which is pleasant, and it also features a vertical GPU mount option, as you can see here at the top, which means if you buy the correct aftermarket cabling, you can get your GPU showing through the door, which looks really awesome if you spent a bit of money. So here you can see one of the dust fan covers. Now these slide out and allow you to clean your case and keep the dust away from it. However, one facet of this one which is a bit odd is you have to open the door to be able to do that. I'm used to be able to just pull those straight out, but this one you have to open the door. It's a minor inconvenience, but it does mean you need a space on your desk or room to turn the case round before you can get that filter out. The other finicky bit of this is the top fan filter. It's a bit awkward because the one that came with the case, unless I'm being completely stupid, which is possible, isn't cut the correct way to fit neatly in the top, which means it just ends up sitting on top. Now I tried to fit it underneath the fan mount at the top of the case, but it wouldn't do that either. Also, if you want to access the front filter, you need to take this front panel off with the fans on it as well. There's no easy way to slide that out. So you have 2 easy access fan filters, fan dust filters, one at the bottom and one on the side. And you can see the side one here, and it's got magnetic strips on it as well, so it really comes off easily, which is standard for Corsair and a really good experience. And the bottom one is a minor hassle of having to open the door, but the top and front ones are not great, and that's a bit odd. I don't really understand why they've done it like that. Probably for the look and feel, I suppose, keeping the aesthetic in, but it basically means if you've got a multitude of fans, you need to have easier access to them. In the rear of the case, you get a number of SSD and standard hard drive platter trays, a little box containing all your cable ties and various screws as well. And I'll leave a description with the specifications to let you know what you can add in there. That basically means you can have a mass of storage options. So for me, for example, I went with a motherboard that can hold 3 NVMe drives in it, and an adapter that holds an extra 4, and a single SSD drive and 2 6TB platter hard drives. So the storage options are insane. You can see here the standard rear fan, no RGB lighting on that. So you get 3 RGB fans in the front and 1 standard fan in the back. If you've got the RGB fans, it makes sense to replace the rear one, but that does mean you have to purchase extra. However, the LL120s do come in packs of 3, so you can always purchase 3, and then you can have 2 on the bottom, 1 at the rear, which is what I've done, or go 2 across the top and 1 at the rear, depending on what you're going to do in terms of radiator for your CPU. So you can see the rear ones are relatively easy to install. Just put them in, screw them in underneath. Obviously you have to take the cover off first to give you access to that, but it's a pretty easy installation process. And generally speaking, actually, the setup of this case has been an utter joy. Having the dual chamber layout really gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of where you put your cables, cable management, and keeping things really neat and tidy. You can hide your shame around the back, which is great for me because I'm not amazing at cable tidying, but they've done a pretty good job this time. If you see the other videos I've done on the Corsair premium cable combs and the cable kit, you'll see the result. So here you can see the 680X sitting next to the Obsidian 500D on the right hand side. The cases themselves both have this tempered glass side panels. The Obsidian doesn't quite show off as much, so if you're looking to show off your internals, the 680X is a joy. You can barely see through that. The components are installed on there. Also, you'll notice that the 680X, 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 680X is substantially wider than the 500D, so you need a bit more space on your desk, assuming that's where you're going to put it. One of the complaints I saw in the unboxing video I did for the 500D was the space between the door and the case itself that potentially lets a bit of dust in. Unfortunately, there's a similar problem, although this case does seem to sit a bit more flush, and I'll demonstrate a bit later on. There is a slight gap at the top of the case which could potentially let dust in. It's quite narrow, but the look and feel of the case itself is just magnificent, and the airflow is pretty fantastic as well. As I said, you've got a multitude of different fan options. Now, in the rear of the case is a PSU mount, and you can see there's a little bracket here that allows you to screw it into place to hold it neatly there, and then you can screw it in at the back as well. The PSU obviously mounts in sideways, allowing the fan to blow and get the air out through that gap at the back where the dust filter is. So it basically means that your PSU still gets a good airflow despite being in a different position to the rest of the components. Also is perfect because it means the cables are tucked away nicely at the rear and hidden behind that door that isn't glass, so no one's going to see your shame. So if you're a messy builder, or you're planning on having loads of components in there, loads of drives, SLI and graphics cards, having some insane build with loads of RGB fans, or even a motherboard which just requires loads of power cables. The motherboard I'm using is powering a i9 processor, and it requires no less than 4 different PSU connections, which means that there's a lot of power cables running through to the front. Also, as I said, a standard SSD and 2 6TB hard drives going in the rear, so that basically means I've got loads of different cables coming through to the front, and having that many cables running through can be a bit of a mess, but there's plenty of room in that back panel to hide things away, tidy up, keep things nice and neat, and ensure that only what you need is running through to the front. Docking and installing everything is really easy as well. These SSD and HDD trays are dead easy to fit stuff into. You can see here a little bit of the vertical mounting joy. If you want to do that, you can see it's really easy, and it looks magnificent as well, depending on what GPU you've got. Obviously, the RTX 2080 Ti looks fantastic. Dock like that, and you can see the stages of the final result here as well. The 240mm cooler on the top, and some of the RGB goodness. As I said, swapped out the rear fan and the 2 bottom ones, but actually the front free one as well, because the standard fans have a black housing around the outside, so we went with this white design to match the case itself. One of my friends said it looks really clinical, and I suppose it does, but once you've got the fans going and the lighting going, and at night, it just looks amazing. And the contrast between the white and black also looks fantastic as well. Having that vertical mount also gives you a lot more options. And if you've got a large motherboard, I've got 4 PCIe slots on it, it's really easy to install whatever extra components you want to add into the case, and yet you still have plenty of room for cables. And you can see, because of the tempered glass on the front and side, you get plenty of glorious view. So if you're after that RGB lighting, or I just want to see the parts, then this is the way forward, because of this case it's just fantastic. Also has a really easy access door. It's easy to open, it closes satisfyingly. There's a close-up view of some of the joy. You can see here what I was talking about with the cable combs. Basically, combs that neatly hold each of the wires of the power supply unit cables in place, running neatly alongside each other. The end result is pretty spiffing. You can also note here quickly, if you look at the top, the LED strips don't fit perfectly in the case at the top because of the way the thumb screws and the mount for the top fan sit. So that's a bit of a fiddle. If you enjoy a bit of peeling though, there are multiple options here. Inside and outside the door. The front and top, all the tempered glass panels. There's nothing quite like peeling off all those bits of plastic when you've finished a magnificent build. So here you can see the top fan cover that doesn't sit neatly in there. Now I might be doing this wrong. I've tried, as I said, removing the fan mount on the top and sliding it underneath under there, but it just won't fit in properly. The only thing I can think is to try cutting it to shape, but then the magnets won't be in the right place. I don't know whether it's a manufacturing error or a user error. It's probably user error. You can also see the slight gap in the door here. Quite narrow, but I know people were fussy about it when they saw the 500D. Probably have the same gripes with this one. However, I'm quite confident with the airflow and the design of the case that it'll be relatively easy to keep clean. You can open that door, blow out any dust. All the other fan filters will keep most of the dust out as well. Keep things looking spiffing. Only downside is that this glass, tempered glass, is a real fingerprint magnet, which is something I had a problem with. And reflections as well, as you can see me in the reflections of the video. But it is glorious. Glorious. Really quite pleased with this build. The cable tidying actually went quite well, which I was quite pleased with. And that's because a lot of the shame is at the back and you're not even going to get to see it. You can also see I changed the layout slightly because I had this MSI M2 expansion card which allows me to install 4 extra NVMe drives. Well, they're bringing this to a total of 7, which is fantastic. If you want loads and loads of fast storage, that's the way forward. Also, you can see Corsair's Vengeance RAM with the RGB lighting and LED lighting kit. So I had 4 sticks of Vengeance RAM installed, and then 4 more of our lighting enhancement kit, which is basically a fake RAM dim which fits in and gives you this extra boost in your lighting, and it looks flipping awesome. From multiple angles, you can see the glory of the case. And you can see there are numerous holes in the rear as well, so you can take your cables in at various different angles to hide them away and get the best look and feel to the case by the end of it, which is fantastic. I ran some underneath the PSU tray, right down the bottom of the case, a few around the sides of the motherboard, over the top, all over the place, but they end up looking really neat and magnificent. You can see the bottom ones down there and the full glory of the GeForce RTX 2080 Ti up close as well. And as you can see, there are also cable tidying loops at the rear of the case. You can just see them on the front here, which basically means you can go to town tidying at the back as well. I use the cable combs on the front and then standard cable ties on the rear and tidy everything up nice and neatly. And yet you can still see some problem. Cables hiding up there, but that's because I haven't finished fiddling with it. I wanted to make sure the synchronized order of the fans was perfect, which is still something I'm working on. in the end, I really struggled to find anything bad to say about this case other than minor gripes with the fan filters and if you're fussy about the door. But it looks fantastic. Obviously the way it looks is going to vary depending on how you build it. Perhaps you want to change the white cables out for some black ones, or red and black. Give it a bit different vibe. Well, I really like the contrast of the black and white. Looks fantastic. That's about all there is to say, really. Hope you enjoyed this video of the Corsair 680X. And all in all, a really fantastic case. I really enjoyed building in it. It looks flipping awesome at the end. Yes, it costs a lot of money, but you do get those LL120 fans. You do get a really awesome design. Lots of tempered glass, easy access panels, easy access dust filters, loads and loads of awesome design features. It's a fantastic case. I'd recommend checking it out, adding it to your shortlist if you're considering a new build. Well worth a purchase. Thanks for watching. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Hope you enjoyed it, found it useful, interesting, or humorous, or all of the above. If you did, please be sure to give me a thumbs up, and also drop me a comment and let me know what you liked. And if you really didn't like it, please let me know the reasons why as well, with constructive feedback that I can use to improve my future videos. Any feedback is always appreciated. And if you have the time, please consider subscribing to my channel so you get to see more awesome content from me in future. I'm always looking to grow my follower base and also to keep carrying on producing interesting content on a variety of gaming peripherals, gaming videos, tips, tricks, unboxings and all sorts of other things. Let me know what you like from my channel and if there's anything you'd like to see more of. Thanks very much for your time. Have a great life.